3 disturbing true stories that will keep you awake tonight. Story. The passenger on Route 61. There are stories that sound like they could never happen to real people, until they do. Tonight you will hear 3 disturbing true stories, each told by someone who swears every word really happened. A long drive that turned into a nightmare on Route 61. A quiet apartment that hid a voice in the dark. And a night shift where something impossible appeared on the cameras. Turn off your lights, put your headphones on, and remember, truth doesn't always wait for daylight. I live in Louisiana, but last fall, I drove up to Houston to visit my sister. It was one of those spontaneous trips where you just pack a small bag and hit the road. I spent a few days there and everything was fine, until the drive home. It was a Sunday night around 11:30 when I finally got on the road. The weather was calm, the sky clear, and traffic light. I was tired but alert. I had 6 hours to go, most of it along Route 61, long, empty stretches of road lined with pine trees and not much else. I didn't mind. I've done long drives before. But that night felt heavy. I remember glancing into my rearview mirror and catching nothing but darkness. Not a single pair of headlights behind me. About an hour in, I saw something ahead. A car pulled off to the shoulder. Its hazard lights blinked weakly, flashing orange against the trees. I slowed down, debating whether to stop, but as I passed, I noticed the driver's door was open, and no one was inside. Just an empty car, door swinging slightly in the breeze. It gave me a weird feeling. I told myself maybe they'd gone into the woods to use the bathroom, but something about that open door stayed in my mind. I turned up the radio and kept going. A few miles later, headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. Finally, another car. It came up fast, too fast, then slowed until it was right behind me. I could see 2 bright beams filling the mirror, practically blinding me. After about a minute, the car swerved sharply into the left lane and pulled up beside me. I glanced over, ready to flip them off, but the windows were tinted pitch black. The car stayed beside me for several seconds, perfectly matching my speed. Then, just as suddenly, it slowed down and fell back again. I tried to ignore it, but every hair on my arm stood on end. Another few minutes passed, and I noticed the car had vanished. I exhaled, thinking maybe they'd turned off somewhere. But when I reached for my water bottle and looked up again, the car's headlights reappeared behind me, closer than before. It followed me for miles. My stomach was twisting in knots. I pulled off at a gas station that appeared like an oasis in the middle of nowhere. I figured if they wanted to follow me, I'd confront them in a lit area. The car followed me off the highway but stopped about 30 feet behind, idling at the edge of the lot. The driver's door opened, but no one got out. I couldn't see through the tinted glass. The gas station was deserted. No other customers, no cashier inside the booth. Just the hum of the pumps and the faint buzz of a fluorescent light. After a minute, the car's door slowly shut. Then the engine revved, and the vehicle rolled out of the lot, disappearing back onto the highway. I laughed nervously, convincing myself I was overreacting. But when I got back into my car, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The handle of my trunk was slightly ajar. I hadn't opened it. I brushed it off, telling myself the latch was loose. I started the car and got back on Route 61. An hour later, I started feeling drowsy. The road was hypnotic, mile after mile of dark trees. I rolled down my window for air, letting the wind sting my face. Then, faintly, I heard something, like a thump. It came from the back of the car. At first I thought it was the road, but then it came again, louder, a bang, like someone hitting metal from the inside. I slammed the brakes, pulling onto the shoulder. My heart was pounding. I grabbed the flashlight I kept in the glove box, stepped out, and walked around to the back. The trunk was closed tight now. I hesitated, then pulled the handle. The trunk popped open. Inside, there was nothing. No spare tire, no tools, no bags. Completely empty, except for one long strand of hair caught in the latch. I froze. It was human, long, dark, and freshly torn. I shut the trunk hard and got back in the car, shaking so badly I could barely shift gears. I kept driving until I saw a diner with a few trucks parked outside. I went in and ordered coffee just to calm myself down. When I finally reached home that morning, I told my dad about it. He laughed, thinking I'd imagined things from being tired. But later that week, a local news story came on. A man was arrested about 30 miles north of Baton Rouge. He had been hiding in the trunks of random cars at gas stations, waiting for victims to drive off before climbing out to rob them, sometimes worse. Police found his fingerprints on a Route 61 surveillance camera. To this day, I still wonder if he had already climbed out of mine. Story 2. The Voice in Apartment 2B. When I first moved into the apartment complex just outside Denver, I thought I'd finally found peace. It was small, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, but perfect for a fresh start after my breakup. I didn't know anyone in the city, but the rent was cheap and the neighbors seemed quiet. My unit was on the 3rd floor, right at the end of a long hallway that smelled faintly of bleach and old carpet. The first few weeks were peaceful until one Friday night. It was around 2 a.m. when I woke up suddenly, not from a noise, but from a feeling. That odd sensation that someone is nearby. Then I heard it, a whisper, soft, feminine, right outside my bedroom door. It said my name, Lena. I sat up slowly, holding my breath. I wasn't dreaming. I knew that voice wasn't coming from inside my head. I reached for my phone. No notifications, no missed calls. Then again, Lena, open the door. It was closer this time. I could hear the breath behind the words. I grabbed my phone flashlight, crept out of bed, and aimed the light at my front door. The peephole showed only darkness. The whisper stopped. Then I saw something move under the door, a shadow passing over the crack of light from the hallway. Someone was standing just outside my apartment. I backed away, dialing 911 with shaking hands. I explained what was happening as quietly as I could. The operator told me to stay inside and wait for officers to arrive. A few minutes later, I heard the elevator ding. The police. But before they even knocked, I heard the whisper again. Only now, it came from inside my apartment. Lena. I turned toward the sound. It was coming from my living room. The motion light on my security camera blinked red. Someone was there. I looked through the app on my phone. The live feed showed my couch, my TV, and the curtains fluttering slightly. Then behind them, a face. It was faint, but definitely there. Someone was standing outside on the fire escape, peering in through my window. The officers arrived within minutes. They checked the balcony, the hallway, everything. The person was gone. The next morning, I went to the building manager's office. I asked if a maintenance worker had been around my unit that night. He frowned. Maintenance? At 2 a.m.? No way. We don't even have a night crew anymore. Budget cuts. I told him about the voice, the fire escape, everything. He went pale. Finally, he sighed and said, "This isn't the first time. 2 years ago, a man who used to work here, night maintenance, was fired for watching tenants through the vents. He had fake credentials, fake ID, everything. I asked where he lived. The manager hesitated, then pointed toward the floor below mine. Unit 2B. That unit had been empty for over a year. That night, I moved a chair against the door and slept with the lights on. But around 3 a.m., I woke up again, to the faint sound of metal scraping behind the vent near my bed. And then that same whisper, "Lena, I miss you." Story 3. The Night Shift Footage. In 2019, I took a job working overnight at a small gas station off Interstate 40. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. I worked alone most nights, starting at 10 p.m. and leaving at 6 a.m. The store was quiet. Most of my customers were truckers, night owls, or people who looked like they were running from something. We had 4 security cameras, 1 over the register, 1 at the entrance, and 2 outside near the pumps. For the first few months, nothing strange happened, until one night in November. At around 3:15 a.m., the security feed glitched. All 4 screens flickered to static for a second. When they came back, one of the outdoor cameras showed a man standing by pump 3. He was wearing dark clothing and no hat, but his face, it looked wrong, like a blur. No eyes, no mouth, No features, just smooth skin. I blinked hard, thinking it was compression error or poor lighting. I went outside with my flashlight. Nobody there. When I checked the footage again, the figure was gone. I tried rewinding, but the video timeline jumped, skipping back several seconds on its own, almost like it was undoing itself. Then the figure reappeared, this time inside the store, standing behind the counter. I spun around, no one there. But on the screen I could see myself looking at the monitor and the man standing right behind me. I felt something brush the back of my neck, cold, like static. The lights above me flickered. Then the store phone rang once and stopped. The clock on the register read 3:07 a.m. When the owner came in that morning, I showed him the feed, but when we tried to play it back, every file from that hour was gone, deleted. The only thing left was a single frozen frame. The faceless man staring at the camera, time-stamped 03:07:18. I thought it was just a glitch, until the following year. On the same date, same time, November 13th, 3:07 a.m., all the cameras glitched again. I wasn't even working that night, but the new clerk called me in a panic. She said the monitor froze, showing me standing behind the counter, even though I hadn't worked there in months. When the police came, the timestamp on that footage matched the exact same minute as the first one, down to the second. The owner shut down the gas station a year later after the building failed an inspection. It's still there, boarded up. But every November, locals say they see the lights flicker on around 3 a.m. just for a few minutes. And if you drive past slowly enough, they say, you can still see a man inside, standing behind the counter, staring at the camera. Not every monster lives in the dark. Some sit right behind us while we drive, whisper our names through vents, or stare through the static when we think no one's watching. If you've ever had an experience that still keeps you awake at night, share it in the comments below. You might just hear it here on the next episode of Midnight Movie Recaps. Sleep well, if you can.